All right, good evening, everybody. I received a question on Quora from Mike Jewell. The question was, is it permitted to drive to an Orthodox Friday night Kabbalat Shabbat service? And then he said that his conservative synagogue permits it, and would the Orthodox synagogue permit it, considering that the services would conclude before Shabbat actually begins, which would be a reference to, in the summertime, many synagogues have the custom of praying early and possibly being finished with the service before Shabbos actually begins. So the first thing that I would say is that most Orthodox synagogues outside of large Orthodox enclaves pretty much have what I would say a don't ask, don't tell policy when it comes to driving on the Sabbath. And some synagogues even have open parking lots on the Sabbath. In general, if a synagogue is more Haredi, it's not going to have that, or even from the right wing of modern Orthodoxy, such as the Young Israel movement. Part of the rules of the Young Israel movement is that the parking lot has to be closed on the Sabbath. But even with that being said, there's really nothing to stop you from parking on the street, or even unless there's no parking on the street, or parking a block or two away in order to come. Now, as far as this particular question, as far as making that in the summertime at least, that the services will conclude before Shabbat ends, but before Shabbat begins rather, before sundown. So, or other opinions might say it's even after sundown. Essentially, the answer that I would have is, if you are just going to observe the service and not actually participate in the service, there's absolutely nothing wrong with sitting there and you just are curious, what does an Orthodox service look like, and you're going to attend the service and not actually daven Mariv with them. So there's actually nothing wrong with that, but once you daven and you're Makabel Shabbos, you Makabel Shabbat, and once you say Mizmor Shil Yom HaShabbos, so then according to the halacha you're not allowed to drive. But nonetheless, if you're in a more liberal Orthodox synagogue, no one's going to stop you. Is it a sin to drive once you're Makabel Shabbos, even if Shabbos didn't start yet? Yes, it is. You're not allowed to do that, because there's such a thing as Tosefes Shabbos. If you recite Mizmor Shil Yom HaShabbos with the intention, and you daven Marv for sure, it's Shabbos for you, regardless of whether it's sundown now, as long as it's after the time called Plak HaMincha. So that's essentially the issue here.
Turn left onto Richmond Terrace.
So, but if you go and just you may could daven mincha with them, let's say, and you can even,
for half a mile,
according to most opinions, you can even sing Lechadodi and so forth, as long as you are quiet, so to speak, from Mizmor Shil Yom HaShabbos. And it would seem you probably shouldn't answer to Baruch Hu either. Then, according to halacha, if it's not Shabbos yet, you could drive home, and then you can daven when you get home. Just if you're doing that out of curiosity to see what is it like in an Orthodox shul. So that's pretty much the answer I have here. But again, most, particularly if they have an outreach approach to the synagogue, like a Chabad synagogue, or
1,000 feet, turn right onto Victory Boulevard,
or some of the more liberal modern Orthodox synagogues, wouldn't even have a problem with you driving Saturday morning. You know, they know it's like an open secret that people are doing that, even though it goes against our beliefs and we consider it to be
right onto Victory
a very grave sin. to do. Nonetheless, it's something that's very common. So if you know, I remember when I lived in Richmond, Virginia,
on Victory Boulevard for 3/4 of a mile.
There were 2 Orthodox synagogues. Well, 3. Oh, what? Come on. And one of them had, well, there was Chabad. I'm sure they had their parking lot open, and then there was Beth Israel had an open parking lot, and then our shul was Young Israel, was the more right-wing shul, and we knew people were driving, even Saturday morning, and we didn't turn them away. And I asked my Rebbe about it, the Calver Rebbe, and he told me, he said, you know, you're dealing with people who are going to drive to the store or something else. It's better that if they're going to drive anyway, it's better they should drive to shul, and at least during that time they're keeping Shabbos. Obviously, if we were talking about someone who knows better, it's an issue, but you know, or even he said that if it's a question of driving to an Orthodox synagogue or driving to a conservative synagogue, he said, you know, because in general we were always told in yeshiva, if someone wants to come for a Shabbos meal or to shul on Shabbos, you kind of let them know that they have a place to stay, and you hint to it, but you don't turn them away. Whereas as far as inviting people to come to shul and so forth, if you know they're going to drive, and the Calver Rebbe told me you don't have to do that because, and again, that's his opinion, and obviously other people have different opinions. You follow your own Rebbeim. That's what my Rebbe told me, is again, because we're dealing with people who probably, you know, if you know, someone who knows about keeping Shabbos, they're not going to do that. And someone who doesn't know better, and you got to teach them, and if that's the means to teach them about Yiddishkeit, that's how you know, it's the same way what the Lubavitchers do. Essentially, he said that's you know, that's accepted in Kiruv circles. So, still, with that being said, it's better not to go to shul than to drive to shul on Shabbos. But again, your question about driving back before Shabbos begins,
1,000 feet, turn left onto Lewis
as long as you don't daven, you know, you're not Makabel Shabbos, you don't daven Mariv, you are definitely allowed to drive home. But it would seem that probably saying Baruch Hu even could be a question of being Makabel Shabbos. So again, the best thing to do though is ask the rabbi of the shul there how he feels about it. You know, because he's a Mardasra. It's his, you know, it's his place. So thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. We'll see you later.